Students, good morning all. Myself, Arshdeep Kaur, a member of Shiv Jyoti Educational Group Kota. Today we are here to start the revision of your supplementary book, that is Footprints Without Feet, and we would be taking chapter number 5 of the same book. The name of the chapter is also Footprints Without Feet, written by H.G. Wells. This chapter is basically a novel written by him. It is a very famous novel. This story is related to a scientist, how a scientist becomes invisible and what all things then he does. So let us start with the revision of it. Two boys were surprised at the muddy footprints of a pair of bare feet. Now two boys were sitting on a coast side. Near the seashore, they were just enjoying their evening. All of a sudden, they saw something very strange. They saw the bare foot marks of someone who was not visible, and they started following that barefoot marks, that where it is going. For those two boys, it was just a mystery because the foot marks disappeared. But no one was there. So whose footmark it was? Now let us see. Griffin was a brilliant scientist who discovered that the human body could become invisible and transparent. Griffin is the main character and Griffin is the scientist. This scientist has been working for a long period of time. He was trying to make a medicine that could make human beings go invisible. He was successful at it. For testing, one day he ate some of the drugs and he became invisible. And the story begins from here. By consuming it, he was not being visible to anyone. So let's see what all things Griffin did then. Griffin became a lawless person. Now Griffin was a very short-tempered person, children. Actually, Griffin used to get irritated with short things also. He does not like anyone's interference in his life, nor anyone asking him what he was doing, how he was doing. One fine day, he had a mess up with his landlord, and in order to take the revenge of it, he put on fire the house of that landlord. Although he has lost his everything, his clothes, his place to live, but still the anger in him was so much that he has become a lawless person. Now he was all naked and he was moving on the streets of London. It was really a very bad time that Griffin chose. It was at the time of January, chilly winters. At that time, Griffin was moving and wandering on the streets of London, that too naked. So Griffin was thinking to go somewhere so that he could get comforted. The place where he was living, he has put it on fire, so he cannot go over there. So now what happens? He entered a big London store to warm and feed himself. Now over there, when he was wandering on the streets, at that time, he just saw a store and he entered inside it. Over there, he stuffed himself. First of all, he wore a cap, a coat and a muffler, and after that, he started feeding himself with coffee, meat, and then he was feeling relaxed. He just slept on the pile of quills kept over there. Griffin thought that before anyone comes to the store, I'll wake up and move out of the store. But Griffin was in a deep sleep. The store people came in the morning, they lifted up the store lid and they found some person was just sleeping over there on a pile of quills. Because Griffin was wearing clothes, students, he was wearing a hat and a coat and pants, so he was visible. Then what happened? They thought that he is a thief. Of course, anyone will think that. So what did they do? They were just trying to catch hold of him, and in order to escape from there, Griffin threw off all the clothes one by one and became invisible. People were really very shocked what happened, but Griffin made a successful escape from there. After that, Griffin was again naked, moving, wandering and all alone on the streets of London, that too in a cold weather. Now he entered where? He came to the Drury Lane, where he bandaged himself round the head, dark glasses, false nose, big bushy side whiskers and a large hat in a shop. Now Drury Lane was the theatre world. Over there theatres were being performed and there were dramas being practiced. So there was the stuffs that he could get very easily, whatever he desired. So from there he just took for his head he just took the bandages. He covered himself with the bandages all around. He wore the bandages so that it could become visible till here. After that he could wear the clothes, so he was visible. But before for the above part, he covered himself with bandages around the head. He wore dark glasses because the eyes were a hollow shaped eyes, nothing was there. He wore a false nose on it, big bushy side whiskers. Now he wore whiskers and large hat in a shop from there. Now he has arranged all the things that could make him visible. But what was missing? The cash, the money. So he robbed from there a shopkeeper. He collected all the cash, whatever he was having, and he moved out from there. He left crowded London and came to the village of Lebanon. Now what happened? London was too crowded place for him to live and there was a chance of him getting caught by the cops. So he decided that he would leave London and he just went to a village that was near London, the village of Epping. Over there he has just booked 2 rooms in an inn, that means an hotel, and while he went over there, he made it very clear that he is a scientist. He does not want to get disturbed. He is going through a very important research. So there should be no disturbance. The 2 rooms were there. Mrs. Hall, the owner of the inn, was very happy as in the time of winters hardly any guest came to her inn. But Griffin has come over there. He has paid her the advance money also. So she was very happy. She tried to become friendly with Griffin, but Griffin was a sort of person who maintained distance. As I told you before also, Griffin does not like anyone's interference in his life. So he tried to maintain a distance from Mrs. Hall also. Let's see now what happens. He had no cash and he burgled a clergyman's house to get it. Now the advance that Griffin has paid to Mrs. Hall, he has been staying over there for 1 month and the advance was over. Now Mrs. Hall asked him to give him the money, the new money for the next month. He need to pay the rent. So he said, okay, I'll give you the cash, it's ready. I give you the check, it's ready. But he was not having any check. So what did he do? He entered the house of clergyman. That night, clergyman and his wife woke up because there was some noise produced in the study. So they come downstairs. The clergyman opened the door with holding a poker in his hand and he shouted, surrender. But no one surrendered. Clergyman and his wife searched everywhere, behind the curtains, under the desk, everywhere, but they didn't find anyone. They just saw the drawer in which the cash was kept. The cash was missing. So the robbery has taken place, that was for sure. But how would you think that the robbery has been connected to Griffin? Let's find out now. One day the landlord and his wife Mrs. Hall found their guest rooms widely open. Now what happened? After this robbery that he has done at clergyman's house, he just took the cash from there and he gave this cash to whom? To the Mrs. Hall. He said, your rent is ready, ma'am. The news of this robbery was around the village. Everyone was thinking, who has done this? And what happened? One fine day, the landlord was on round and Mrs. Hall and Mr. Hall found that the room gate was open. Whose gate? Griffin gate. Always he used to shut the door, sit inside for long hours, but suddenly the room gate was open. So it was really a very shocking thing. They both entered inside the room to find where was Griffin. They saw that on the bed bandages were there, his whiskers, nose, hat, clothes were kept, but he was not there. All of a sudden, Mrs. Hall heard a sneeze near her ears. A hat came around and lashed her on her face from somewhere. The chair started moving, the chair became alive, and they both were turned outside the room. The chair was moving on its own, and the chair pushed them outside the room and shut the door on their face. The room was locked then, and Mrs. Hall was almost down the stairs. She just sat over there and started crying. She said, "It is the work of some very powerful spirit who is there in our house." Villagers believed that it was the work of witchcraft, but somewhere it was being suspected that this has been done by whom? By the Griffin, because he was not having cash. The cash was produced. He was not there in the room. Still the things were moving. So what is happening? Before his entry, everything was okay. Mrs. Hall asked her how he entered the locked room. Now Mrs. Hall, once she was just checking out her chairs and all, from somewhere Griffin came inside the room that was locked. So Mrs. Hall asked, "Look, I know something fishy you are doing. Tell me how you entered this room." Now Griffin was a short-tempered person. He became very angry. He said, "Wait, I'll show you how I came." He removed all his bandages, all his things, on bandages till here. So till here he became invisible. The hat was thrown, the bandages were removed, and till here he was invisible, students. Looking at this, it was a very, you could say, a moment where everyone was scared. In the whole inn, everyone was looking at this person who was headless. Then what happened? Then the policeman was called, Mr. Jeffers. He was called to hold that man who was not having head. For this policeman also, this was for the first time that he was going to catch a criminal who was not having head, who was invisible till here. The policeman tried to get hold of a man who started throwing his garments one by one and became invisible. The moment policeman handcuffed him, at that time what happened? That he started removing all his clothes and he was trying to become invisible. The people who were trying to catch hold of him, the things were banging on them from somewhere around. No one knew from where these things are coming. There was a loud noise, and then the Jeffers became unconscious. Jaffer was knocked unconscious when he tried to hold on the unseen scientist. Now Jaffer, the policeman, was trying to hold the scientist. Then he just banged him and he became invisible. And this was a mystery, that where that scientist has gone. Nobody knew that. So students, now let us see some of the important questions of your chapter. Students, now let us see some of the important questions from your scan data. What curious episode occurs in the study? The study of clergymans. So you all know that what happened over there? Let's see. The clergyman and his wife were awake early one morning by the noises that was coming from the study room. When the clergyman went with a metal rod and looked around, he did not find anyone over there. No one was there, only the noises were coming. He even looked under the desk, behind curtains, up at the chimney, but no one was there. The strangest part was, even though nobody was there, the desk was open and the money was missing from the drawer. So this was the episode that happened at clergyman's house where the robbery took place. Although they were awake, but still they did not find anyone, but the cash was missing from their place. What extraordinary things happened at the inn where the scientist Griffin was living. So, what were the things that were happening after his entrance? Let us find out. The landlord of the inn and his wife were surprised to see the doors of Griffin's room open. They looked inside, they peeped, but nobody was there, and they decided to investigate. They found it strange that his room's door was open, as he never liked anyone entering the room. So, the room door was open and it was a sudden, you could say, shock to them. All of a sudden, while investigating, Mrs. Hall heard a sniff near her ear. And was it hit by Griffin's hat on the face? The chair became alive in the room and charged towards Mrs. Hall, hit her legs. As they both were turned in terror, the chair pushed them out of the room and the room was slammed, and suddenly locking sound was heard, and they both were outside the room only. Mrs. Hall was scared and felt that the furniture was haunted by spirits, witchcraft, and it was strangers' work. The nearby people started talking that the work was that of witchcraft, that spiritual activities are taking place. So, in the inn, when they tried to investigate, all such activities happened. Griffin was rather a lawless person. Comment. How Griffin was a lawless person? Griffin was a lawless person because his landlord disliked him and tried to get him off from there. In revenge, he set his house on fire and ran away. Although he had no money, he was not having any money, still he just ran out from there. When he went into the London store, he just stole things from there, regardless that it was a really very bad thing. Then later he went to Drury Lane, which was the center of the theatre world. Over there again, in a suitable shop, he wear bandages, on his forehead, dark glasses, false nose, big bushy side whiskers, large hat, and escape without seeing anyone. Then what happened, children? He was attacked by the shopkeeper from behind, and he just robbed all the money the shopkeeper was having. When he had exhausted the money he had stolen, he robbed the clergyman. First the shopkeeper in the Drury Lane, then the clergyman. He was just doing lawless things. He even attacked the innkeeper who was keeping him, Mrs. Hall, and his wife, and tried to sneak into his room. Later, when the police came to arrest, he threw off his clothes, thereby becoming invisible. So, these were series of actions. From the starting he has done. He has put the house of landlord on fire. He has done a robbery in the store. After that, he has done a robbery in the Drury Lane. After that, in clergyman's house. After that also, he has hit the police person who has came to hold him. So, these were some of the important questions, students. I hope you all have understood it. For better understanding, you may also see the previous videos that have been uploaded.